Have you ever failed so badly that you started doubting your own worth? Have you ever smiled in front of people, but cried alone because of one failure? Today, I want to talk about failure, not the kind that ends your life, but the kind that quietly changes how you see yourself. Failure doesn't shout. It doesn't knock on your door or announce its arrival. It whispers, slipping into your life so quietly that you don't even notice it at first. It comes on an ordinary day when nothing seems wrong, when you truly believe you have done everything you could. There is no loud sound when you fail, no dramatic moment where the world stops spinning. There is only silence, a long, heavy silence that lingers, even as everything around you continues as usual. People go to work, laugh, make plans, and move forward while you remain still, caught in a moment that no one else can see. Sometimes failure doesn't look like failure at all. It looks like waking up in the same room, breathing the same air, living the same routine until you check your phone, or hear a single sentence, or notice a brief change in someone's expression, and suddenly your heart sinks. A message, a result, a quiet rejection. And just like that, something inside you collapses. Nothing in the outside world changes, yet inside, everything feels different. At first, you don't feel sad. You feel disbelief. You stare at the words in front of you, reading them again and again, as if they might change if you give them enough time. You wonder if you misunderstood something, if there was a mistake, if this moment is somehow unreal. You replay the scene in your mind, hoping to find a loophole, an explanation that will undo the damage. But reality stays exactly where it is, unmoved by your hope. Then comes the emptiness. Not tears, not screaming, just a hollow space in your chest. A quiet absence where excitement and expectation once lived. You sit there longer than you meant to, staring into nothing, thinking about everything at once, feeling strangely disconnected from your own body, as if you're watching yourself from a distance. Slowly, the emotions begin to pile up. Disappointment sinks in first, heavy and suffocating. Then comes shame, subtle but sharp, making you feel exposed even when no one is watching. And after that, a quiet anger directed entirely at yourself. You start replaying every step you took, every choice you made, every moment you hesitated or doubted yourself. You tell yourself that if you had tried harder, prepared better, been smarter, stronger, or braver, maybe the ending would have been different. Even when you know, deep down, that you gave it everything you had, failure convinces you that it still wasn't enough. It has a cruel way of rewriting your memories, turning effort into something small and insignificant, turning sleepless nights into proof of your own inadequacy. Suddenly, all the things you once felt proud of seem pointless, and a painful question rises in your mind. Was I ever good enough? Or was I just pretending to be? You don't talk about it, not because you don't want to, but because you don't know how. How do you explain a pain that doesn't have a visible wound? How do you put into words the feeling of losing something intangible, something no one else can see? So you choose silence. You smile when people ask how you're doing. You say you're fine, and in a way, you mean it. The way people mean it when they're trying to protect themselves from having to explain their sadness. You carry on with your days, performing normalcy, even though every small task feels heavier than it used to. And then, almost without noticing, comparison enters the room, quietly, like failure did. You open social media or hear stories about people around you, and suddenly you're surrounded by progress that isn't yours. People who succeeded, people who reached the place you wanted to reach, people who seem confident, certain, and unafraid. You tell yourself not to compare, that everyone has their own journey, their own timing, but your heart doesn't listen to logic. You start measuring your failure against their success, and every comparison feels like another reminder of what you lack. You ask yourself why they made it and you didn't, why their efforts were rewarded while yours were ignored. You wonder what they have that you don't, and whether that missing piece is something you can ever find. Without realizing it, you turn their achievements into a mirror that only reflects your own disappointment. The most painful thought arrives quietly, disguised as a simple question. Not, "I failed," but "I tried," and still lost. Because failing without trying hurts. But failing after you've given your best breaks something deeper. It makes you question the value of effort itself. It makes you wonder whether trying again is worth the risk, whether hope is just another setup for disappointment. You start to fear the idea of giving your heart to something again, knowing how easily it can be crushed. Failure doesn't just take away a result. It takes away your confidence, your courage, and the way you see yourself. It changes how you speak about your dreams, making your voice quieter, more cautious. It teaches you to lower your expectations, to protect yourself by wanting less. The collapse doesn't happen all at once. It happens in fragments. A little less confidence when you speak. A little more doubt when you make decisions. A little more silence when you want to be heard. You begin to second-guess yourself, even in moments that once felt natural and easy. And one day, without any dramatic turning point, you realize that you no longer recognize the person you've become. You're still here, still breathing, still moving forward, but something essential feels missing. Failure didn't destroy you in a single moment. It eroded you slowly, quietly, patiently. Failure doesn't shout. It whispers. It tells you that you were not good enough, even when you tried your best. And the most heartbreaking part is that, for a moment, maybe longer than you want to admit, you believe it. The hardest part of failure is not losing. It's staying there, right in the middle of it, wondering if you still deserve to dream. Because after the moment of collapse, after the silence settles in, there is a strange place where time seems to stop. You are no longer at the beginning, full of hope, and you are not at the end either, where everything is clear. You are stuck somewhere in between, in a space that feels heavy and directionless. This is the part no one really talks about, the part where nothing dramatic happens, yet everything feels painfully difficult. In this place, motivation disappears quietly. You don't wake up one day and decide to give up. It just slowly fades away. The things that once excited you now feel distant, almost unfamiliar. You sit in front of tasks you used to care about, but your hands don't move. Your mind feels foggy, as if it's wrapped in something thick and heavy. You don't know what the next step is, and even if you did, you're not sure you have the strength to take it. The future becomes a blank space. And instead of possibilities, all you see are questions with no answers. You start avoiding things. Not because you don't care, but because caring hurts too much. You avoid conversations that might remind you of what you failed at. You avoid places, people, and even your own thoughts. Silence becomes a safe place, not a peaceful one, but a protective one. You speak less, share less, explain nothing. You withdraw into yourself, hoping that if you stay small enough, the pain won't notice you. But in that silence, the thoughts grow louder. You lie awake at night, replaying the same scenes over and over again. You imagine different endings, different versions of yourself, stronger, braver, luckier. You wonder where it went wrong and whether it was ever right to begin with. Every small memory feels like proof of something you lost. And the more you think, the more stuck you feel, as if your mind is running in circles while your life stands still. Fear settles in slowly, disguising itself as caution. You tell yourself you're just being realistic, just being careful, but deep down, you know it's fear. Fear of trying again, fear of hoping again, fear of standing at the starting line only to end up in the same place. The idea of failure repeating itself feels unbearable. So you stop yourself before you even begin. You shrink your dreams, lower your expectations, and convince yourself that wanting less is a form of wisdom. But it's not peace, it's self-protection. In this stage, you start questioning whether you still deserve to dream at all. You look at your past failure and let it define your future. You tell yourself that maybe some dreams are meant for other people, not for you. Maybe you've already reached your limit. Maybe this is as far as you're allowed to go. And those thoughts hurt more than the failure itself, because they take away not just what you lost, but what you could have become. You feel stuck between who you were and who you hope to be. You're not moving forward, but you can't go back either. Life keeps asking you to continue, while your heart is still sitting in the wreckage of what didn't work out. And the hardest part is that the world doesn't stop for your pain. Days pass, people move on, and you're still there, trying to gather pieces of yourself that no longer fit the same way. The hardest part of failure is not losing, it's staying there, in that quiet, suffocating middle, wondering if you still deserve to dream, afraid to move forward, afraid to stay, and unsure of who you are. Without the version of yourself that once believed everything was possible. After failure, life doesn't suddenly feel meaningful again. There is no clear sign that you are healing. No exact moment when you can say, "I'm okay now." Most of the time, nothing changes on the outside. You don't wake up stronger. You don't feel wiser. You don't suddenly know what to do next. Instead, you wake up the same way you did yesterday, with a tired heart and a quiet question, asking whether today will hurt less. And maybe this is the first truth no one tells you. After failure, not everyone stands back up in a powerful way. Some people don't rise at all. They simply remain, still breathing, still existing, still moving forward at a pace so slow it almost feels like standing still. At first, living feels mechanical. You do things because they need to be done, not because you want to. You eat because your body asks for food. You sleep because exhaustion leaves you no choice. You answer messages late, or not at all. You show up physically, but emotionally, you're somewhere else. And that's okay. Healing doesn't always feel warm or hopeful. Sometimes it feels numb. Sometimes it feels like dragging yourself through the day with nothing but habit and responsibility, holding you together. There are days when the failure feels distant, like a story that happened to someone else. And then there are days when it feels just as heavy as it did in the beginning. Healing is not a straight path forward. It circles back on itself. Old thoughts return. Old doubts knock again. And when they do, you realize something important. Recovery is not about never feeling pain again. It's about learning how to sit with it without letting it destroy you. Slowly, without any announcement, you begin to move differently. You stop rushing. You stop chasing the idea of catching up. You stop measuring your life against invisible deadlines. You walk through your days more carefully, like someone learning how to live in a body that has been hurt before. Moving slower doesn't mean you've given up. It means you've learned how fragile hope can be, and you're protecting it this time. There is a quiet strength in choosing to continue without forcing yourself to be strong. You start to understand that surviving does not require bravery. It requires patience. It requires letting go of the version of yourself who believed Effort always guarantees results. You mourn that version. You miss them, but you also forgive them for not knowing what you know now. Failure slowly loses its power to define you. It becomes a memory instead of an identity. You stop introducing yourself through what you didn't achieve. You stop seeing every new opportunity as a test of your worth. Instead, you begin to see yourself as someone who once failed and kept living. Someone who didn't disappear when things fell apart. Someone who stayed. You learn to be gentle with your expectations. You stop asking yourself to be exceptional. You stop demanding constant growth, constant improvement, constant proof that you are doing well. Some days, doing okay is enough. Some days, simply not giving up is enough. And in a world that constantly pushes you to be more, choosing to be gentle is an act of quiet resistance. Your dreams begin to change. Some of them shrink. Some of them fade completely. And that loss hurts in its own way. You grieve not only what failed, but also who you thought you were going to be. You grieve the future you imagined so clearly that it felt real. And that grief deserves space. Letting go of a dream does not mean you were weak. It means you were honest about what you could carry. Over time, you begin to trust yourself. Again, not because you believe you'll succeed next time, but because you believe you'll survive. Even if you don't, this is a different kind of confidence. A quieter one. It says, I don't know what will happen, but I know I won't abandon myself if things go wrong. And that trust is built slowly, through small acts of self-respect, resting when you're tired, saying no when you need to, choosing peace over pressure. You may still feel weak. You may still hesitate before trying again. But weakness does not mean you are incapable. Fear does not mean you are failing. You can carry doubt and still take one step forward. You can feel broken and still move. Progress does not always look like improvement. It sometimes looks like endurance. One day, you notice that the failure no longer controls the way you speak to yourself. You don't punish yourself for every mistake. You don't replay the past as often. The wound is still there, but it no longer bleeds every time you touch it. You have learned how to live around it, how to protect it, how to let it exist without letting it consume you. Failure didn't teach you how to win. It didn't turn you into someone fearless or unstoppable. What it gave you was something quieter and rarer. The ability to stay kind to yourself when the world is not kind. The ability to move forward without certainty. The ability to remain human in moments that make you want to disappear. You are not defined by the worst thing that happened to you. You are defined by what you chose to do afterward. And sometimes, what you choose is simply to stay, to breathe, to live another day. That choice matters more than any comeback story. Failure didn't make me stronger, but it taught me how to be gentler with myself. And sometimes, that is enough.